Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Relationships with Rach. I know I've been MI and I don't even really have an excuse. It's just a matter of getting my priorities together and focusing on other more important stuff. But I do find value in this vlog, which is why I'm trying like my possible best to make sure that I stay committed to this, even if it's once a month, even if I can make it a regular weekly thing. I want to make sure that I still stay committed to this platform because I think it's really important to discuss all this like relationship issues, especially for unmarried people and young people. I think it's very important for us to get a lot of understanding. It's very important for us to get a lot of knowledge, which, speaking of, I think you should get my book if you haven't gotten my book, The Colorful Path Towards Lasting Relationship and Love. It's the holiday season. Happy holidays, everyone. This is a perfect gift to get for somebody for the holidays. Like give somebody a gift of knowledge for this season. It could be a friend, it could be a significant other, it could be just someone you know. Like, this is a great gift to give somebody, the gift of knowledge. It's better than all the chocolates and flowers and things you could buy out there for people, because this actually stays with them. Like, the more you know, the better you are as a person, and you cannot have too much knowledge. You cannot know it all. Nobody can know it all. And I'm actually quite impressed with this book. It really does cover a lot of basic. Even when I go back to read this book, I'm amazed, I'm surprised, because I'm like, where did all this wisdom come from? I can't believe I wrote this book. The inspiration must have come from God. It must have come from above, because if you really read this book, the kind of feedback I've been getting from people, it's been really amazing, and I'm actually quite amazed myself. So I really credit it all to God, because I don't think I'm really that smart or knowledgeable, but I do learn a lot from people. I learn a lot from experiences, and I've had a couple of experiences myself when it comes to this thing called relationship. I have had one or two experiences, and I actually wrote about it in the book as well. So get the book, very important. But to just go straight to the topic for today, I'm going to be discussing 4 concepts I actually talked about in the book, and I refer to them as pillars. Pillars are supporting structures. For those of us that are familiar with architecture or building houses or something like that, pillars are supporting structures. They're like those like poles that hold up the house. So pillars are very, very important part of every building. Every building has to have a pillar, because there will be nothing to uphold the building if there are no pillars. If all the storms of life or storms of hurricane, well, hurricane is a storm, so yeah, that doesn't really make sense. Well, if all the storms of life and hurricanes and tornadoes and winds come against a building without a pillar, it's just gonna fall flat. It's gonna fall and it's gonna be destroyed. But a house with a pillar is still able to like stand and withstand the storm. So that is why pillars are very, very important. They are supporting structures. They are what upholds a building. So I talked about 4 pillars that every marriage must have, or every relationship must have. And the number 1 is respect. Well, it's in no particular order. It's respect, forgiveness, sacrifice, and understanding. Now, there are many things that makes a relationship work. There are many things that holds up a relationship, but I think these 4 are really vital. I think these 4 are really important. And real quick, respect. I think respecting our spouses is so crucial, because respecting somebody is what will make you not take them for granted. And I think respect is just as valuable to men as it is to women, or rather respect is just as valuable to women as it is to men. Now, I'm an African woman. I know how important it is for African men to be respected in a relationship. Like, that is very, very stressed if you're dating an African man is one of those things that's usually very stressed. Like, you gotta respect me, like respect me, like respect me. So I know respect is very, very important to men in that sense, but I think it is just as important to women. Like, it's a mutual thing. Like, there's this saying that respect is reciprocal. So we need to understand that respect is a mutual thing. It's not a one-sided stream. It's not just I respect you and you treat me anyhow. No, it goes both ways. It goes both ways, and respecting our spouses is what will make us not take them for granted, is what will make us value their opinion and their feelings, and will make us treat them right, because we are considering, okay, how I treat this person, how does it make them feel, how does my actions make them feel, and that and respect is what will make us like behave well. Like, that's the reason why you wouldn't talk to your spouse anyhow. That's the reason why you wouldn't want to hurt their feelings or do things that you know it's going to kind of like affect the relationship and the peace and the energy in the relationship. So respect is very, very crucial. And understanding, oh my gosh, understanding is so very important. Like, this particular one cannot be overemphasized, because you're two different people coming from two different backgrounds, two different walks of life, maybe two different educational background, maybe two different socioeconomics and things like that. Well, you have two different DNA. Even that little like thing makes you like worlds apart. It brings like a lot of differences. So it's and what am I even saying? You're a guy, she's a girl, or your girl is a guy. That to start with makes you completely different. Like, women and men, we think differently. That's why I find a lot of value in Steve Harvey Think Like a Man's book. Honestly, I really do. I think that book should be read by everybody as well. Think Like a Man. I think those little knowledge, those little like nuggets, it's very important, because really we think differently. Guys and girls, we think differently. Our understanding of things are so different. It's just the way we are. We are biologically different, and in all the psychologically, emotionally, we are different. And that's just the truth of it. This has nothing to do with feminism or equality or whatever. We are different, but our differences does not necessarily make us unequal. Even in our differences, I think there's still value in everybody. There's still value in being male, there's still value in being female. So it is important to recognize that we are all humans at the end of the day, and everybody is valuable and nobody should be treated less. But however, we are different, and because of those differences, there are bound to be misunderstanding. So it really does take a lot of effort. It really does take a lot of time understanding the other person and trying not to jump into conclusion or misconstruing or misconstructing the other person. Like, try to understand where the other person is coming from. Try to understand their point of view. Try to understand what makes them the way they are. Try to understand what makes them react the way they are to things, or try to understand what makes them tick. Try to understand like why they do the things they do. Understanding is so very important, because if there is no understanding, there's going to be a lot of conflict, there's going to be a lot of miscommunication, and that is just going to bring a lot of bad energy into the relationship. And simple things that you can easily like just solve through communication will become like big deals, because there is no understanding. So understanding is very, very important, and it really starts with communication. Understanding each other is also is vital, but it starts with communication, because you have to communicate things. Like, don't jump into conclusion. This is very important. And don't just assume things about the other person. Don't assume like you know it all or you know them all, because they might do things that will just surprise you and be like, I never expected this person to act like this. I never expected this person to do this. Like, you can't know a person in their entirety. It takes time, it takes a lot of understanding, it takes a lot of communication, it takes a lot of effort. So understanding is very important in a relationship. And the other thing I mentioned in the book is forgiveness. And I think this ties well with understanding, because lack of understanding can bring a lot of issues and which you would need forgiveness for. You can't hold on to grudges in a relationship. And I know emotions run very high in relationship, especially when you're in love with the other person and they do something that is really like hurtful. Like it hurts you more when somebody you love actually do something you don't expect them to do. If it was somebody that you don't really care about, then it's just like, this is whatever. But when it's somebody that you love and they do something like, it really hurts you. So forgiveness is very, very important in a relationship. Not holding on to grudges, learning to let go of things. Like if somebody does something wrong and they apologize for it, get over it. Like try to move on. Pray to God. Pray for healing. Try to make them understand, like, this thing was really hurtful to me. Try not to repeat this and everything. But holding on to grudge, like, it's just going to affect the whole energy of the relationship. Things are not going to flow the way they used to flow. We need to learn to like let it go. It's like water up the duck's back, or however that expression is said. Like you need to learn to let go of things. You need to learn to forgive, because offenses will come. Yeah, because of those differences I mentioned earlier, offenses will definitely come. Like your partner is going to offend you, your partner is going to step on your toes. But if your relationship is worth fighting for, then you need to understand you guys are not opponents, you're on the same team, and you need to fight for this relationship. Don't fight each other, y'all. Don't fight each other. You're lovers. Don't fight each other. Fight for your relationship. So learn to forgive, learn to let things go. And the very last point I've mentioned understanding, I've mentioned forgiveness, I've mentioned respect, and the very last point is sacrifice. Sacrifice is so important in a relationship, and this one has become like even more true to me, because it's not necessarily like making sacrifices in terms of money or making sacrifices in terms of giving up your education or time or things like that, or a job or something to fit the other person. Sacrifice could be as simple as sacrificing your ego. And that is so like important. Oh my gosh, ego is one of the things that ruins relationship like that. Like, it's my right, I'm in the right, like I'm a man or I'm a woman, I ain't gotta take that nonsense or things like that. Ego can so much get into the way of destroying a relationship. It can destroy everything you've built for years, for months, for weeks. So it is very, very important to let that go. Like, let that ego go. If you want your relationship to work, you gotta let your ego go. The other person has to be more important than your ego. Your relationship, what you've built, the effort and everything, it has to be more important than your ego. Like if you haven't found that person for which you will let you go of your pride, then maybe you haven't found the right person, because that is somebody you're supposed to be able to be like, okay, you know what, this person is more important than my ego, this relationship is more important than my ego, I'm offended but I'm right, but I'll let it go. Like you have to give up your right to be right sometimes. That's just the way it is. Even if you're right, just for the sake of peace, just for the sake of the relationship, you have to be willing to let go of your right to be right. And of course, sacrifices encompasses a whole lot of things as well, and depending on the relationship, you would know the area in which maybe you need to make sacrifices of your time, of your money, of your effort, or things like that. Like I wrote in the book that if one spouse is trying to achieve a goal, the other spouse needs to like support. Like you need to provide extra support around the house to make sure like the other spouse is able to achieve their goal. Maybe they want to go back to school. You know that, okay, I need to contribute more time into taking care of the kids or things like that. We have to like support each other. We have to make sacrifices for each other. You have to think about what's best for the family. It's no longer a you thing. Like when you're single, like being single is the best life, y'all. Yeah, like married people will tell you that. I mean, marriage is fun. I'm not married, I've not been married. I can imagine marriage is fun, like waking up to that person all the time, having that like warmth, and the person you could tell everything to, your best friend and everything. That's wonderful, but it also takes a lot of work. I know that for a fact, that it also like takes a lot of work to get to that happy place, or to get to that perfection. Well, there's really no such thing, because there's no perfect marriage. There are no perfect people, thereby there are no perfect marriage. But it does take a lot of effort to have that beauty that marriage represents. So singleness is really the best life. Yeah, it is, because being in the marriage, you have to consider the other person. It's no longer about you. You can't just up and do things. You can't just say, you know what, I'm gonna travel this weekend, I'm just gonna go with my friends, I'm gonna go with my goons and just like have fun. You can't do that, because everything you do, every decision you make, you have to factor the other person into your decision making. So these are one of the things that makes it relationship difficult. So you have to make those sacrifices. You have to consider the other person in your relationship, and these are just simple points, simple pillars, simple principles that upholds a marriage and makes your relationship really strong. So that is it for this episode. Hopefully I'll see you again soon, not too long, but soon, on this beautiful platform where I discuss relationship-centered topics. Once again, grab the book if you haven't done so, The Colorful Paths Towards Lasting Relationship and Love. It is available on Amazon. It is available on Barnes and Noble. It's in Kindle, and you can also get it in hard copy. It's just a great gift to give to somebody. And have a happy holiday, everybody, and stay happy and stay blessed and stay warm. Bye bye.